What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Welcome back for another retro review of Falcon Crest Season 1, Episode 4. So this episode, we are dealing with Lance. Okay, now, in case y'all not following, Lance is the grandson of Angela, Julia's son. And we've already noticed that there's somewhat of a different relationship here. Angela runs everything. Everybody defers to Angela, and even Julia has somewhat... We talked about that, I think, in the last episode, how Julia was saying basically Lance, Angela raised the Lance. And so we start off with Angela talking to Lance and basically saying, listen, you are spending way too much money. You are running the streets and you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing here. Basically he's spoiled and he, gets a lot of things, but it has to be... But when it comes to taking care of Falcon Crest, at the end of the day, that's what she needs, is somebody to run Falcon Crest. And, of course, Lance is saying all the right things. Yes, grandmother. I'm sorry, grandmother. I'll do whatever you need me to do, grandmother. She was like, oh, don't worry about it, because I done already canceled your credit cards. Your checking, well, she said checking account. I done already canceled your checking account, and your privileges are suspended until you can show me that you are dedicated to Falcon Crest. Now, in Lance's mind, that computes to, if I do something major for her, then I'm back in there. Like, this ain't gonna take but a second. I can get back in like swimwear. And what he did was he set fire to the pump house on Chase's property. Because remember, Angela's still trying to get rid of Chase, honey. And so the pump house blows up, and luckily they're able to sort of salvage things. And, Julia and Angela, they're all up in the arms. And when Angela finds out that Lance did it, he was like, well, she said, where you been? He comes home and he said, oh, well, I've been out proving to you that I'm dedicated to Falcon Crest. She was like, I hope that wasn't you that set that fire down to the pump house. And he was like, yeah, well, don't you still want Chance leave? And she was like, don't be out here making decisions without me. Now, at this point, I wasn't sure whether she was pissed off that he did it or she was pissed off that he did it without talking to her. But neither here nor there, she still wasn't happy about the fact that he did it. And her thing was, that is not what I meant. When I said prove yourself to Falcon Crest, that is not what I meant. And for future reference, before you go out here trying to fix things for me, you need to talk to me about it first. The sheriff... Obviously, the sheriff is under Angela's thumb, just like everything else. She told Lance, she said, you better hope that the sheriff can't trace this back to you, because I'm going to have to cash in, I'm going to have to cash something in over here. But the fact that it was so, it was such a single-handed attack, sort of, let you believe that it was something that was very specific to Chance and his family. Now we see Victoria and the guy, the son of the guy that's working with Chance. They're getting closer, honey. They're in over. He's trying to convince her to get in a relationship, and she's like, "Listen, I don't know if I'm ready for all of that. The last time I was in a relationship, I got really hurt. That's because you were dating your teacher. He your age. You fine, girl. Go on and get with that man." Lance comes along. And he makes a very nasty comment to the boy, talking about something, Victoria, I see you slumming it down here with the pickers. Because, of course, Lance is an arrogant ass. And he thinks that he thinks that he has all of the answers and all of that. And, of course, Victoria gets pissed off and he gets pissed off. But, Lance is in one of his nice little sports cars and he races off or whatever. Now, remember... Cole and Lance have already sort of fallen out. Like, they already sort of had a whole little thing or whatever. So, Chase and Maggie end up going to one of Angela's dinners, honey. Angela's always having some sort of formal affair. And he ends up going to one of her dinners. And, they have this nice, nasty relationship that they've built. Angela don't want Chase there. Chase know Angela don't want him there. But at the end of the day, they are still family. So she plays that nice, nasty. I'm going to invite you. I'm going to pretend like I like you, even though you know I really don't. So they're at her house for lunch. I mean, for dinner. And so now while they're at the party, Lance and them are down to the bar. Lance goes to the bar. He sees Victoria and the dude. They dancing. Cole is there dancing with some girl. And Lance, he drinking. He in his feelings. He mad because his grandmother didn't think that what he did was good enough. And so he takes his anger out on the guy, talking about some, get your hands off my cousin. And they end up having a full-on a bar brawl. And they don't, nowadays they would give us more detail. But here, you had to sort of use your imagination. At one point, we saw Lance pick up a beer bottle and then attack the guy, and that was the end of it. Next thing you know, he's in the hospital, so we know that whatever Lance did must have been sort of bad. And Cole and Lance are being, they had gotten arrested, Victoria, whatever, and they were like, well, it wasn't our fault. Like, we know it wasn't our fault. Lance started the whole thing, Now, back over to the party, Angela is having a little tough talk with Lance, with Chase talking about something. Well, word on the curb is that you broke, bruh. And he was like, well, I got enough to pay my crew. I got enough to get through picking season, and I already have a contract for my grapes. Then that's going to help me. And Angela was like, which company? He was like, they like to remain private. I was like, yeah, he done learned his lesson from telling Angela too much of his business because he already know how she rolls. So he wouldn't give Angela more information than that. And she ain't like that. So then she was like, well, that's the funny thing about, the wine industry. When you have one good season, everything is great, but one bad season can wipe you out. She was like, listen, I'm just trying to help you out before you get, you totally bankrupt your family. Like, just sell me the damn land. And that's when they got interrupted by the guy who was saying, listen, our kids in jail. Mario's the boy's name. Mario's in the hospital, and our kid, y'all's kids in jail. So the sheriff shows up to Angela because, of course, there were a lot of witnesses that saw it was Lance. Lance is nowhere to be found. Lance is on the run. Angela is pissed because, of course, this is the total opposite of what she wanted him to do. Plus, at the end of the day, she ain't going to let him get no damn trouble. Lance is hiding out. He runs into his mother. He runs into Emma. He ends up finding this house on the property that's sort of like an abandoned house. But that's where Emma used to meet that little dude. Going back to the first episode, the guy that actually killed Jason. That's where Emma used to meet him. And Emma was saying how, she was hoping that, he asked her to meet him one night and she chickened out. And, she comes down there hoping that he'll come back looking for her. And so then she sort of starts talking about something about Jason. And Lance knows something ain't right with this whole Jason thing. So Lance was like, what happened with Jason, Emma? What really happened? But Lance is so, he's so forceful in his words. And Emma's people used to be gentle with her. But he was so, what happened, Emma? Tell me what happened. She was like, you are not a nice person. And she ends up, because she actually starts telling him the story. And if he had shut up and let her just talk, he probably would have got the whole story. But him being sort of like nasty towards her sort of made her realize, yeah, you ain't the person I probably need to be talking to. And she ends up leaving him there and walking away, telling him he ain't a nice person. So the next day we see Angela on the side of the road. Now, once again, she's having car trouble, and who comes riding along to help her out? Cole. And her way of thanking Cole is she takes Cole up to Falcon Crest. He gives her a ride back to Falcon Crest, and she takes him and she starts talking to him. And she says, Cole, what is it that you want to do? And she starts talking to him about the winery business and how she can get him into the university. And, then she gives him a whole tour of the vineyard, and she gives him a breakdown of their family history. And she tells them how the father started with this and how it trickled down to her and Jason, and how it trickled down to them, and just the whole family history. And you get a lot of the background about Falcon Crest as well, as far as their great grandfather, how he was sort of a little bit of a shyster, a little shyster, And Cole, of course, he's listening. You know, he's interested. He's listening. And you see that Angela's up to something. Like, you immediately see Angela's clock, the tick, 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 tick. Angela ends up telling Cole, she said, listen, I gotta leave this to somebody. And she wants a male heir. That's why she ain't even thinking about Julia. That's why she ain't thinking about Emma. She knows Emma can't do it. And she thinks Julia is weak. Like, she has no respect for Julia. We're going to see that as this continues to go along. And so she's looking for a male heir. She thought it was going to be Lance, but she's realizing that she spoiled Lance. She did a little too much. And Lance really ain't going to be what she needs him to be. And so she's looking at Cole now as her next heir. Now, while she's telling Cole, she takes Cole down to the tasting room. And that's where Lance is hiding out. So Lance actually hears some of this conversation about how she's grooming Cole and she wants Cole to be, you know, her, Cole might end up, you know, being her heir if Lance don't get his act together, kind of thing. Now, let me tell y'all something about Angela. Angela don't miss too much, okay? Angela ain't stupid. And Angela don't miss too much. Now, Lance had gone to his mother because he's told his mother he just needed to get out of the valley for a while. He just needed some time away. And he asked her for money. And she was like, listen, the bank is already closed. Remember, this before ATM machines and stuff, honey. She said, the bank is closed and I don't have that kind of cash. She was like, you're going to have to just hide out till tomorrow. Come back and I'll give you some money. She was like, you know, because you need to get away from here. Because she realizes that he needs to get away from Angela. Like, she knows Angela has ruined her child. And that's where we sort of get a little bit of the story. And she said, you know, he asked her, you know, well, why did you let grandmother take me? And she was like, is that the story she told you? Like, I didn't give you away. She took you from me. Like, it wasn't a willing thing. It was a, you know, I'm going to take your son. She said, you know, your grandmother ran off my husband. She took you from me. She was like, you do need to get away. You know, I don't want you to end up like me and be stuck here in Falcon Crest for the rest of your life. So I'm going to give you this money and I need you to go away and I need you to go find your wings, child. Fly away, child. Now we see Chase, negotiating with the pickers. You know, his friend, the guy that works with him, the Mexican guy, he's sort of his translator because they're speaking Spanish. And you see them negotiate that they're going to come help Chase, start picking the grapes for the next, you know, for the season or whatever, for the harvest. Now, Lance is still trying to figure out a way that he's going to get back in his grandmother's good graces. Now, he know he done doubly messed up. He know he messed up with the fight. He know he messed up with the pump house thing. So he is really, really trying to figure out a way that he can get back in her good graces. Now, and remember the pump house situation. Again, going back to what happened with the friend who created that whole potentially created the mode, or was it? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Her thing was she didn't have a problem with the guy trying to put Chase out of business. She had a problem with the way he did it because it could affect everybody else's crops. And I feel like that was her issue with the pump house situation. She didn't care about the fact that Lance was trying to put Chase out of business. But that pump house, if it flooded his land, and it could have potentially flooded her land and caused her problems. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to remember, they right next door to each other. So I really think that was her issue. It wasn't the fact that, you know, it was the long-term effect of it. So, now, Cole, of course, is excited about the possibility that he could become the heir to Falcon Crest. I mean, you know, who wouldn't be, right? And he goes to Chance, over family dinner. He's telling them about it. And, of course, Chance immediately, his antenna goes up. Him and Maggie are like, something ain't right here. What is she doing? What game is she playing? What's Angela doing? And, of course, Cole, being the naive person that he is, he's like, well, what's the problem with that? I don't see the issue. Why y'all treat me like I'm a kid? I'm not a kid. I can do what I want to do. And Chance is like, I need to know what's going on. Chase is like, I need to know what's going on because I know Angela is up to something. Now, in the meantime, Angela goes to visit the family of the boy that Lance beat up, Mario. And basically, in her nice way, she was basically like, if you drop the charges, I'll make sure Mario goes to school. And there's a scholarship. Basically, I'll let your son go to school for free if you drop the charges against my grandson. And his parents, they knew what she was doing. Like, they're not stupid. But also, I mean, that was an offer too good to turn away. Like, they can't afford to send him to school. So it was like, somebody gonna pay for college? Like, we know what she's doing. You know what I mean? So they agreed to drop the charges as long as, he gets into school. So there's that. So Lance is off the hook because if there are no charges there, I mean, if there's no witness, there are no charges. So Lance is going to be off the hook as far as that's concerned. And Angela actually knew where Lance was, which means Angela knew that Lance heard her when she was telling Cole, you potentially could be my heir. It was all a game. She knew what she was doing. And she's using Cole as a pawn, like Chase is worried about. And Lance tells her, don't worry about it. I got this under control. I got it handled. He was like, I'm going to turn myself into the sheriff. He ain't never had no intention of turning himself into the sheriff, child. But, of course, he has to pretend like that's what he was getting ready to do. And she was like, ain't no need for you to do that. I cleaned up yet another one of your messes. Like I told you before, you have to show me that you are dedicated to Falcon Crest. And this is not the way to do it. So, like, just go and sit down somewhere. Just go and sit down somewhere. What he ends up doing, though, he ends up taking that money that his mother gave him, because she did come through. Now, I don't know how much she gave him, but whatever it was enough. And he actually pays off Chance's crew. The crew that he negotiated the picking with, pays the crew off, and the crew is now not going to show up. Meanwhile, Falcon Crest is picking all their grapes because, of course, they don't have these kinds of problems. They're picking all their grapes, and they're ready for harvest. Now, Chase goes to visit old Angela, and he asks her, like, what's up? What's your plan with my son? And, of course, she plays coy, and she plays the game. But she basically says, listen, I'm looking for an heir. He could be the one. Like, what's the problem? Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't want your son to have this opportunity. Like, what's the big deal? And we all know what the big deal is because, he don't trust her as far as he can throw her. In the meantime, Angela bought Cole a brand new Ferrari, child. Told him it was free of charge. She just wants him to think about coming and working at Falcon Crest. And, of course, he accepts it. What 20-year-old ain't going to accept a brand new sports car, free of charge? So, of course, he shows up down to Falcon Crest with the car. And he's upset, and Chase is upset. Chase is like, "Are you crazy? You can't accept this kind of a gift. Why can't I? I'm grown. I can do whatever I want to do. What are you talking about?" And he was like, "You can't do she's using you." And of course, nobody wants to think they're being taken advantage of. Nobody wants to think they're being used. But of course, that's exactly what it is. And maybe that's not whatever it is. It's a beautiful car, child. It's a candy apple red sports car, child. So, of course, Cole takes off and he starts speeding off back over to Falcon Crest because, and he tells Angela, my dad just doesn't understand. And Angela was like, well, don't worry about it. You can stay here as long as you want. Come on in. So, Cole thinks he done won something. He thinks that his parents don't understand and they don't know what's going on. Lance is looking at him like, you don't even know. You're just a pawn in this game that me and my grandmother are playing. And Lance gives him the side eye. Emma comes downstairs like she about to tell Cole some good stuff, honey. I thought she was getting ready to spill the tea a little bit. She gave a little nibble. She didn't give a lot. She gave a little nibble. But what happened was Lance and grandmother and Angela went into her little office area and closed the door. And Emma said something that made Cole realize that Angela needed to talk to her. So Cole walked up on the door, and he really wasn't trying to eavesdrop. He was trying to, how you listen to the door to see if you can knock or whatever. But he overheard Lance because, let me rewind a little bit. While all of this was going on, Chase's workers didn't show up. And they told them, they told Chase that somebody had threatened them not to work for him. And so, of course, he's sitting there trying to figure out who would do this, why they do that, and what he's going to do, because him and his family can't physically pick all of that. And basically, his grapes are going to die on the vine. Like, they're going to wither in the sun. They're going to die on the vine. And he's not going to be able to pick enough grapes to make enough money to pay his bills. Like, it's just, And so Lance is telling Angela that. Now, this time, Angela was a little happy. Why? Because this ain't going to affect her land. This isn't going to affect her vineyard. So he's actually not mad about that per se. I mean, she's actually not mad. But Cole actually overhears it. And y'all know what Cole did. Cole went running home to his mama. I mean, his daddy admitted that, she used him and he felt stupid or whatever. And and then Chance ran back over to the house and threatened Angela and said, listen, if my workers don't show up first thing tomorrow morning, I'm going to the sheriff. And I'm going to let the sheriff know that Lance did this and Lance did that. And it's going to be a problem. Now, Angela, she ain't like it. She said, I'll let you know. He was like, no, don't let me know. Make sure they there. She said, don't push me. Like, I know you got me in the box. She said, don't. I said, I'll let you know. But of course, the next morning, the workers showed up and Chance was able was able to pick his grapes, y'all. But please understand that this is I told y'all that we saw the rivalry begin between Cole and Lance. Please know that it only gets nastier from here, child. The two of them are going to continuously be rivals for a whole lot of things as we continue down this journey that is Falcon Crest, child. Anyway, let me know what y'all think. Drop it in those comments. Peace.